It is once again the finals, but this time it's the real finals, the final finals, the grand finals. In the bottom left, we have MaxPax, and the top rated is Clem. We just saw them in the winners finals, in which Clem was able to take that 2-1, although it was very close. And then MaxPax went to the lower bracket, defeated 2 Protosses, is back up here to face Clem once again. We are doing the classic double bracket tournament thingy, where if Clem, being the upper bracket winner, wins this best of 3, he's just won. Congratulations. We all do other stuff for the day. But if Clem loses this best of 3, then we play another best of 3. So the ladder, not the ladder reset, the bracket reset that comes with some iterations of a lower bracket tournament. Not very typical in StarCraft for, I'm guessing, a lot of reasons, but decided to go for this tournament for it. Couldn't tell you why exactly, but probably wanted to incorporate a lower bracket to make it a little more fun for people, other than just, you know, meeting someone you're not going to win against and then bombing out after 2 hours. And then with a lower bracket, you do have that question of, would we make that all best of 3 lower bracket? Well, that takes forever, so maybe we don't do that. And then if the guy gets back up to the upper bracket, do we give any advantage to the upper bracket guy? And they've, you know, chosen what they've chosen. But I've been saying, between other games, that I actually still favor MaxPax here, even though he was the one that lost the most recent best of 3 they played. And why? Because I really thought that MaxPax was playing a more confident game than Clem was. Now, Clem won, and he didn't look silly or sloppy, like he had never done any of these things before. Because he has, of course, practiced tank pushes and early game pushes and all-ins and proxies and all that good stuff. But it's still not something that I think Clem would usually depend on if he didn't have to. Clem plays a lot of his matchups when he is at the top of his game. Like, he can do the same thing over and over again and probably win. So TVZ is the epitome of that. Like, he go 3cc all the time, right? But he wins a lot. TVP has always been a little different. He's always had different openings, of course, but he still could get into a very similar pace as his other games. Not too base all-inning, not full-on 1-1-1 cheesing. You know, a little different, you know, medevac versus a couple of cyclones versus a Hellion, something like that. But then into a 3rd CC and then into a macro game. And these are things that just have to be changed a little bit for MaxPax, as MaxPax has been beating him most recently in a couple of more prestigious best-ofs. So Clem might have been having a little bit of that underdog mentality going into the last best of 3, but perhaps the confidence gained from winning it is going to make him play, I'm not going to say less cheesy, because it's not like that whole game, that whole series was cheesy, but just maybe a little less of that tank push aggression. And we're seeing, well, actually a more aggressive opener, in fact, but a different one. 2 Hellions, 3 Reapers, opposed to 2 and 1. MaxPax does have that forward wall completed, but he knows the Reapers will just bop him out of the way, so trying his best to prepare for that, builds a pylon, will have to let his soccer go, as that's just a lot of firepower. Unfortunately, they all might be kind of meh units, but combine them together and there's something kind of good. Shield battery is going to be done, but won't protect the units near the wall, and this will have to be... I mean, it's not to be broken. That gateway, the Robo actually... Oh, that's the Robo. Oh. Eee. Ouch. Eee. Okay. Well, this isn't looking like a very good start for MaxPax. It's a cancelist Robo. Delayed Robo, obviously. Actually does have the Reapers going to the main base after all the struggle on that front. The Reapers will still be finding 4, maybe even 5 probes. 5 probes. He's trying to click it. He's trying to click it. You can see he's trying to click this one. It's a lucky probe. 4 probes go down. Adept and Stalker. 2 Adepts in total, because one went offensive. Robo was canceled. I mean, this is a good start for the Terran. It's not unrecoverable for the Protoss, though, at all. Especially as the Protoss just cleared up this little Widow Mine addition. No problem whatsoever. One of the scariest things about this type of opener is when you just let it affect everything else in the game. When you're just like, oh, I did that wrong, and oh, shit, I did that wrong, too, and oh, God, this is happening as well. Which even pro gamers will occasionally get overwhelmed by too many flurry punches. And that's kind of what almost happened there. You know, you're too busy trying to recover from that, oh god, I messed up, let the Reapers in, don't see the Widow Mine. But the Widow Mine actually died. Medevac goes back home, nothing more will come from that. But a Banshee is another little bit of a jab here, just to really throw MaxPax off. Clem, oh, he is not playing risky, is he? So he saw 2 gateways and a Twilight Council, and though he knew he delayed the Robo, he knows it's all back on the way. He's still understandably scared of Stalker counter pressure. So the tanks were prepared in the main base and 2 bunkers in the natural. That's the defense of someone who was like, okay, you could have 8 Stalkers, you could have 10, you could have 12, you could have a Warp Prism. I'm not playing with that. And now that he's determined, hey, I got enough, and it's not going to be a lot of units, those units just recalled out. They were so scared. Yeah, you don't need it anymore. Moving on to the next stage. So that would have been the scariest thing. Would be a counterattack when Clem was still reeling positively from the attacks that he did well. Thinking, like, I got this in the bag. It's a little overconfident. It's happened to him before, but not lately. By playing just a little bit extra safe, he can go into the rest of the game, no problem. Now, MaxPax, on the other hand, would have loved to have scared Clem even more, but not really much more he can do. Gonna lose the Observer? Jesus. No, he doesn't lose the Observer, and he kills the Raven. Clem did not expect that to happen. Not at all. He did not anticipate that. Otherwise, his Raven should have been hotkeyed and pulled back very quickly. That's a pretty big mistake. Medevac of 8 Marines going across the map, seeing if they can do anything. The Stalkers of MaxPax are staying on the attack path. They are ready to see any incoming attack. And so they are not back at home, which is something this 8 Marine drop is going to take full advantage of. A couple of Stalkers were left just for little bits of things, but now having to come together and then choked in right here. Pylon already killed, delaying that +1 attack and not successfully grabbing the medevac either. Means it could come back later. That ended up being pretty perfect, honestly. MaxPax had, as I said, just enough littered around to stop something really small, like a single uncloaked Banshee. Did not do a whole lot, but it did distract, and then the 4 Stalkers didn't come over to the 8 Marines very quickly at all, leading to further probe damage. And Stalkers on the front had to be pulled back as well. So that's another benefit to doing that 8 Marine drop. Not that the Stalkers wouldn't have had to pull back anyway. We are getting to that point where the Bio Army is better than pure Stalker. But it just makes it really... It makes life a lot easier. You also got a little bit of a check-in on what the Protoss is doing and how they're doing. So this Banshee flies over a 4th base just now building. Is like, okay, I got you. All right, I see what's going down here. And it just makes you really confident. Everything has gone swimmingly for Clem so far. And he's going to lose a tank. Tank's not the most important thing. Cost a couple of Zealots. And honestly, if the Warp Prism wants to come back in, it's going to have to reinvest in the Zealots, which could be a little dangerous if Clem is moving across the map. Now, Clem still has to be very wary about the Warp Prism, but never mind, there it isn't. Just kidding. Warp Prism injured from the earlier drop-off. Gets one shot by the Widow Mine. MaxPax in some trouble. That Warp Prism was pretty integral to his recovery from the early bits of damage, because it was the only thing he really had to scare Clem with. Now Clem, I mean, he's supposed to be worried about run-bys. That is still possible, but it's not nearly as potent without that Warp Prism. Clem is up 40 supply right now, or just about. He could be making his way across the map. There's not really a lot holding him back, but it looks like he is going to be waiting for something. I mean, it could just be simply, I'm going to wait till I'm maxed out. With all of my production set up, all my upgrades on the way, my 4th base set into a planetary, you're really not going to be able to stop me at all. And this kind of defense, when maybe you expect offense, has worked out very well for Clem against MaxPax previously. Where it definitely looked like MaxPax in their last game 3 was thinking, oh, I'm being attacked, I'm being attacked, I'm being attacked. And then he wasn't, and then the macro game just unraveled from there. As Clem had one of the easier games of his life, and it feels like this could be a similar kind of idea. It's just like, I maybe could find success should I move out, but I know this guy is just waiting for me to do that, and he's going to start slapping with Zealots, and then if I don't have my setup proper back at home, I'm going to be dealing with headaches left and right, so why go now when I could go later and still probably have that advantage? You know, eventually the game of StarCraft will come back to an even state, given enough time, and then the only advantage someone will have is going to be a bank. Like, that does happen. Eventually, upgrades equal out. You can max out on 3 upgrades. If we had, 10 upgrades, it'd be very different. And you could have more choices, maybe, in, like, the type of composition you have, because you have more to invest in heavier, more expensive units. But eventually, everything evens out except for the bank, and we're kind of getting close to that point, where Clem is maxed out. And if you push now, it'd still have a 20 supply lead, but MaxPax is actually intentionally holding on to supply. 1,000 minerals in the bank just to determine what he needs to do with it. And so now Clem, not going to have any time to take control over the game. He's going to be on the defense. But if he takes a good defensive fight, he's probably going to immediately counterattack. And that's what we're waiting on right now. We're kind of waiting on whether or not MaxPax screws up, I guess. Does he take a bad fight, and then Clem takes full advantage over the map because of it? But any early game shenanigans that have happened have really evened out at this point. MaxPax got up to the 4th base, fully saturated pretty quickly. 5th base is up, although not fully saturated. It will be eventually as probes transfer. Upgrades finishing up for both parties. Clem's is closer to being done, but not quite done. Not quite on 2-2. 1-1 versus +2. So looking to go pretty well for the Terran, who's in this nice defensive arc. Got plenty of Vikings, EMPs hitting all these armies, and any distraction run by attempts are not finding very much success. This bunker is actually very good against the Colossus, by the way. Not just because Colossus don't really kill buildings all that quickly, but just they get distracted so easily. The whole entire army will be on the left side, and all 3 Colossus will be like, oh, this bunker is great. So it's actually really good to have that. Even the missile turret, honestly. There is a serious chance the Colossus will walk into missile turret range. He'll probably die to the Vikings before that, to be fair. The Vikings are eyeing one of them and should be able to get the kill. Disruptor actually did nick a couple of Marauders, but no longer one-shots them. So we got Clem able to take advantage of the situation currently. He knows the Protoss is on the run. He wants to be chasing all these units down. MaxPax, kind of had to run. It was very clear that Clem was pretty well freaking prepared for the defense. Mass Zealot was not going to overwhelm him. Clem wasn't going to be caught in between a big Zealot swell, unable to move around. That would have been a rookie mistake. Nor was he caught in a particularly bad choke where he couldn't move into the Protoss, right? Like, he could absolutely force his army through there. And MaxPax, yeah, he runs away for now. Gonna continue improving his army, particularly on those upgrades. Clem's 2-2 finishes, starts up 3-3 pretty quickly. MaxPax will have 3-1 at the very least. But then also trying to find just better engagements. I mean, the more that Clem isn't paying attention, getting preemptive EMPs, the better that the Protoss army will be. But it is still pretty dependent on getting some type of gotcha move, and that might have been it. Zealot's on the backside, a very weak Terran army, and that is going to force a liftoff. That army was so weak, so injured from chasing and taking damage on the consistent battles, and those Zealots coming on the backside are absolutely perfect. Vikings are landed, and that's nothing to shake a stick at. They actually are pretty helpful here. But this would also be an opportunity for one Colossus to come and kind of ruin that. Not what MaxPax is thinking so far. Not until the Vikings are actually dead, if I had to guess. Once they're fully actually dead, not just landed, then he might go in a couple more Colossus. And there is a decent amount of production for the Terran, too. So that was temporarily a very good situation for MaxPax, but Clem has recovered. Almost 100%. He does need to heal up his army. More medevacs are available. Caduceus Reactor would not be out of place here either. Not just because of the medevac problem, but because we are on 5 bases. This is the time to kind of get those etc. upgrades, the miscellaneous ones that you don't usually see. And once 3-3 is done, we'll see the building upgrades as well. Not quite there yet. 3-2 about to be finished for MaxPax, giving him an upgrade lead. But once again, the Terran army in this great concave got those EMPs coming down preemptively. Disruptor does get a couple of good kills. When they are injured enough from stimming or just being attacked, the Disruptors are starting to one-shot those Marauders again. Marines standing absolutely no chance against them, never have. Zealots now getting into the natural. This is getting a little bit funky. Clem in some serious trouble. Production being camped, SCVs on the run. Disruptor getting another good hit as Clem, I don't think he was paying attention. He is going to utilize this choke to his advantage when it's up against the Zealots, but then when it's up against the Disruptors, it kind of turns around, doesn't it? One Colossus does come in. The Vikings are forced to lift. And Clem is just not able to regroup the army. So much of his production stuck up in the high ground. Now, that will come in for an eventual last-ditch attempt. Okay, it was supposed to anyway. To go for a surround, but I'm not sure it's going to be good enough. MaxPax might have just broken his way in here. Liberator's trying to come out to save the day, but once again, Disruptor's getting some good shots. Orbital Command going down. Clem, maybe a little sort of shocked that he was broken right now. But Liberators are here. Vikings have landed. The last stand is happening. And we no longer have a lot of Zealots. This is a very flimsy army. It is going to be torn apart. Disruptors on the front line getting torn apart. Marauders actually getting dropped off on the front lines. Vikings landing on the front lines as well. It's a hell of a last stand as the Zealots come in too late. They were too late, and they were underneath all of the Liberators' actual shots. They did not pick off the last few units like they were hoping for. Actually, the last few units were Marines, which is actually kind of what you want against a lot of Zealots. And that is going to be a hold. 25 SCVs lower. And a lot of bio to make up for. But you know what did survive? Medivacs and Liberators. And that could actually be very important as my cat moves my mic. That could actually be very important. Because if it's one thing that you can't afford, it's 100 Marines. Marines will come in no problem. Marauders, a little more problematic, but still probably okay. Medivacs and Vikings and Liberators having to be built while trying to rebuild Marauder Marine Ghost. That might be an expense too far for someone who just lost 25 SCVs. Yeah, that's Clem's situation. On the other side, MaxPax, he did dip down in the supply after an overextension. I think you could say that officially, but it's not like it was a terrible one because he had such a bank. He could kind of make one of those maneuvers, hoping that the game would have ended. But it didn't. So MaxPax is forced to use that bank he had accumulated to rebuild his own army. And we got both players kind of maxing out around the same time. Both completing all their upgrades as well. 3-3-2 for the Terran. 3-3, about 40 seconds for MaxPax. Clem now using his Liberators to harass this base. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the best Liberator map, but there are a lot of ridges, I guess. Nothing that the Liberators can just stay behind for, indefinitely. But, oh, yeah, definitely this choke. Oh, yeah, 100%. Definitely use that one. MaxPax's not going to get through. Clem has fixed his economy as well, which includes, I think, transferring SCVs around. Holy shit, that's a lot of DTs. Woo! Okay, that's where all the bank went into. Widowmine is going to help, but no mass repair. Not that I think it would have saved it. The Widowmines absolutely helped. They killed like 2 or 3 DTs, but yeah, no armor and no SCV repair. Planetary will go down. DT still a threat too. Clem not going to go back home and try and take care of that. Going to try and let his reinforcements take care of it. And that could be quite the gamble. We're going to get a bit of a Protoss around here. Liberators are sieging up, heading towards those Stalkers, hoping to take care of them before they're taken care of in turn. And that was a good play. Zealots on the left side do eventually disappear, leaving only Stalker Colossus. The Liberator is in good position. Great. Liberator is all around, moving every which way, not sieged up, not great. And that's something that MaxPax would love to be taking advantage of right now, but a little shy. Doesn't want to go engaging after that army. And wanted to let his DTs, I guess, do as much as they possibly could, which apparently they did not go after the 3rd natural in main, which I think would have caused the most chaos. Looks like they went after that other planetary and were unable to kill it. 8 DT still around, though, so maybe they were recalled. Actually, I gotta assume they were recalled. War Prism's gonna try and go to the main base, but I don't think it's gonna work out. It takes even further hull damage. Gonna settle for the 3rd. MaxPax back on the attack, back on the map control. Still has 5 bases, by the way, so even though he lost one of his bases, he's still in a pretty good economic position. Not as good as Clem, though. Not as good as Clem. Clem did just drop down a bunch of mules. Must be what the situation is. The War Prism did get in, by the way. He even got a warp in, apparently. That's actually surprising. It was so weak. Well, I think Zealots got dropped and DTs came back in. Either way, it's problematic for Clem's home. He is once again going to fully commit to the attack. Hope that the attack works out well. Only a couple Disruptors for MaxPax as his Colossus goes down. The Disruptors might be the only thing he's really relying on, but I don't know. That's an injured army. Medivacs have no energy, and reinforcements were guaranteed. MaxPax still has economy, so like initially, 10 Zealots might have been doable. 20 Zealots, that's another thing. That's another thing entirely. Clem at that point just wouldn't kill them fast enough. Now without Widowmines and Marines to help out there. So MaxPax, I mean, of course, 23 Zealots is going to be great for that particular scenario. 23 Zealots moving through a choke that's got Liberators on it, not going to be as ideal, so they are They can be good in certain situations, bad in others. Right now, they are what MaxPax has invested into, and they could be killed in a terrible way. This army could actually be freaking terrible. Or it could be the best thing in the world. It really depends on whether or not those zealots get a surround or go through a choke. I don't think MaxPax realized Clem was moving over to the right side, but is going to go ahead and accept this kind of base trade. At least a Nexus down from MaxPax. 2 definitely. Clem going to lose the planetary, lose an orbital, perhaps his 3rd as well. Maybe that 4th. That is only an orbital. Liberators realizing they're on the wrong side of town, and unfortunately got grouped in with a main army, so they're just going to go right over the Stalkers and die. Maybe a better use to send them back to the main base, but hard to say. There's a lot of Stalkers and not a lot of Liberators. That main base might be a goner no matter what. Full-on base trade mode by the looks of things. Clem ripping into the production, tearing down some economy of his opponents. Both of them will be very limited on income. And soon, very limited on production. It looks like MaxPax not going to go for the throat. Not going to go into that main base. Don't know what that stim was for. Don't know what's happening over there, but whatever. MaxPax also not getting his own main base covered. Looks like both of them not willing to commit that far into each other's main bases. Ay, ay, ay. That was a good disruptor shot. Fortunately, it was a one-shot. Everything there. Yeah, both of them were just like, I don't think we're going to go to the main bases. Like, we're good. You want to go to the main base? No. Okay, I don't want to go to the main base either. All right, cool. Which means we're not really getting a full-on base race. They did literally trade bases. Both of them slapped down to about a base of mining, I guess. MaxPax's about to be on 2. Actually, maybe even 3. Well. And his bases are the fresher ones, too, whereas Clem is trying to, well, I don't know what he's going to retake, but it's not going to have a lot of mining to be done. This is not a defense you see very often, is it? Vikings. Missile turret's got to come down. He never got into the main base to kill the Dark Shrine. Plus, there's only 1 DT around, but that could be... That's always a good thing to have if it's going to go into a really very close game, the Dark Shrine. Right now, MaxPax investing into big boy units. Colossus is out. Still a lot of Zealots from the earlier warp-ins. Clem knows that his army could win if everything went perfectly. Disruptors never get any shots. Zealots go through a choke. Then the Bio army does win. But right now, he is not getting the engagement he's hoping for. He can't really force it either. Kind of does. Managed to circumvent the army just enough to get a snipe on the Nexus. That army was everywhere but the south, so good on him. The Zealots came in first. This is what Clem wants to do, is he wants the Zealots just to like rush forward without the rest of the army in a conga line. And then you take out the Zealots, then you work on the rest of the army, right? We're gonna chop this army into pieces. 10 army supply down for Clem, but in an ideal situation, I mean, the Terran army could still win. Vikings coming through here to help out against that single Colossus. And then landing for everything else. EMP on top of the Zealots. The Zealots, do you notice, actually being microed? They're actually realizing, hey, we got EMP, we probably should not continue to attack. And especially in a scrappy game, it can kind of be too easy to lose an extra 4, 5, 6 Zealots, because you're like, Zealots. This is not a game that you're going to be playing too loosey-goosey for. Even though MaxPax does have an entire base mining, and it's still pretty healthy, having lost the other base and it ended up being a secret, having lost this one too, like, he's no longer in a position that said time favors him. I think time still favors Protoss, but like not nearly as much as it did when he had 2 more Nexus, right? And he's rebuilding those, but we'll see. We'll see. Clem just had such little mining. He is finally getting back to some amount of production with the mules being dropped. Orbital relatively well guarded, honestly. MaxPax wouldn't be able to throw just 1 or 2 Zealots over here. Which at this point in time, because his economy has been decimated so badly, that's the only thing he would be able to send over. It's just a couple of units at a time. So, probably going to get some mining off of this one. I don't know about this one. MaxPax is about to have 3 Nexus mining again, so Clem does have to make some moves here. Unfortunately, Clem is not mining gas. Now, that's intentional, because you'd rather have twice the amount of Marines, I guess, rather than that 1 Marauder. But I am worried, because Marauders are good, first of all, but then also Vikings. If he loses his Vikings all willy-nilly, then there's not going to be anything more dependable to take down those Colossus. Disruptors are getting some shots, but none of them getting full-on kills, at least not that many of them. It looks like Clem decides that this is the moment, this is the time to go, but a very injured army that's stimmed up, a lot of the army going down to the front lines. Marauders finally starting to fall, but the Zealots have been pulled away to go for it. I don't know what they were going for, but they're coming back maybe a little bit too late. No, maybe perfectly timed. Clem, forced to lift up, could not jump on top of those Colossus fast enough. Wanted to get them out of the equation. And then he probably could have played a runaround game, but not anymore. One medevac extremely low, forced to unload. More medevacs trying to escape on the north side. Looks like the majority of the army has managed to escape and is now going to head to the main base. Very clear that MaxPax thinks he's chasing the important bits of the army. He is not. He lost track of what was going where, but a recall is available, and a recall is pretty good. Not going to lie, that was a good call. Hey, but it's used now. Medevacs will be able to escape. Once again, unloading with that weakened medevac. And now with the recall divvying up the Protoss army, I mean, Clem can't take the engagement, really, but he could absolutely run away. I think maybe he did not run away fast enough. He was like, wait, no, I can take this army on. Wait, no. But then the rest of the army was quick to recover. Colossus with the cliff walk came on down, and now we're in trouble. But on the top side, a Nexus will go down alongside the majority of MaxPax's probes. And Clem is going to try and do everything he possibly can with the smallest little hit squad. It is now overstimmed and basically dead. Another base trade coming in here. 1 DT has been built. We do not have a Raven on the field, and I'm not sure how many more scans we're going to have either. As this orbital looks to be targeted by the Stalkers, it will not quite go down, but eventually it most certainly will, as the repair wasn't there. The money was gone. Clem is trying to win this game so freaking hard, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. 20 supply deficit. 1 scan available from that main base. That was actually it, guys. That was the only scan. Gotta wait 50 more seconds for another one. MaxPax not exactly rolling in dough, though. Is he gonna afford another DT or choose to go something else? All of his Nexus that were mining are now gone. Clem with the I don't know what you want to call it, kind of backstab, whichever, manages to kill the entire economy of his opponent. But he loses almost all of his army in the process. Now his army battered, bruised, weakened, hardly any energy. And I'm not sure what Clem is thinking. He can't go for a full-on base race. He will not be able to kill every single building before MaxPax's army arrives. And if he tries to escape now, well, the medevacs will be going down. Exactly what MaxPax is targeting anyway. And this might just be it. Clem, if he had any amount of production, would have been bringing himself back into this game. But it's not good enough. It's not good enough. We still have 2 Colossus, which will kill any amount of Marines that Clem is able to afford. And Clem, he definitely fought for this one. 100% though, but it's over now. It's a draw? No, there's no reason to draw. MaxPax will eventually get mining. Yeah, this is what Clem is making sure of course. Yeah, GG's. It would take a very long time to get to a Stargate and a Phoenix, but eventually we would get there. It's almost never in their favor, right? It's like a super small thing, so then you lose the goodwill of your opponent, which you might need in the future. If it was a bigger thing, then you're just really making yourself look like a jackass, which no one in StarCraft really wants to do now. There are some people out there in the world who they're okay being a jackass. There's some who even argue that it's necessary in competition to be a bit of an ass. So they might be like, yeah, of course I would if I was asked in a, you know, $500,000 best of 7 finals. But then everyone would be like, you're an ass. And then you'd have to work with everything that goes poorly with that, I guess. Idra was an ass, but he actually wasn't, he was a how to say, like, he was a rule stickler, right? He actually was pretty bound to honor rules. No. So he wouldn't have lied. He may have been a dick about it, but he wouldn't have lied. Anyway. So yeah, Clem, I mean, not only would you believe your opponent in that situation, but then if there was any reason you didn't, you could have just waited. But that would have been such a waste of time. And another reason why MaxPax would not want to lie is because as he lies and we all wait for him to build a Stargate, we're just like MaxPax. Yeah. Maybe I might have lied to Huck after the hallucination fiasco. No, I don't think so. He might have lied about, like, pork chops. I don't think he actually would have lied in a game. Anyway. 1 Rex expand coming out from Clem as MaxPax goes for his 1 gateway expands. MaxPax, I would say, was behind in that last game, actually. Kind of forgot what happened with the finale being a base trade. Multiple base trades. But, yeah, there was that time where Clem was up, like, 50 supply. Where he seemed to have a big advantage. But then MaxPax, unbothered, you know, with an observer, seeing Clem's defensive position, was probably doing a lot of things correctly that I wasn't tracking immediately. But if you know your opponent's not going to attack you just by whatever thing you scout, then you're like, he's not going to attack me. The movement's not right, the build's not right, whatever. You can get away with a lot. You can put all your chronos into probes. You can take a faster expansion, a riskier expansion, but then hope that it pays off by the time the other guy is ready to go. Delay production of army units and instead gather the economy, gather the technology, gather your upgrades. And I gotta imagine that's a big reason as to why MaxPax did just suddenly jump up again in supply. Because almost certainly he was a little behind with how the opening went down. But then when it was necessary to actually match supply and start to duke it out, MaxPax is more than prepared. And then it was Clem just forced into a very defensive position, which, again, last time they played a best of 3, Clem playing defensive, waiting until he's maxed out, ended up throwing MaxPax off. This time it did not. If that was kind of the idea, it did not work. And while that concave was nice defensively, it still was a lot of opportunity for the Protoss to kind of bully the Terran without any repercussions. And at no point did MaxPax throw enough of an army away. Because it was maybe Clem favored, but then when the game got to maxed out, then there was that really good engagement from MaxPax that only turned sour for the last minute of it. But then was still not enough of a throw to give up what MaxPax had built, which is a 6-base economy. Tons of production. And so Clem might want to change things up a lot this game, either by going for one of those tank pushes again, like he got at least a success with in the last series, or just to do a similar opener, but then actually move out. Try and find MaxPax unaware of a drop here, drop there. An attack on the 3rd. Actually pressure the guy. But these guys play so often together that I'm definitely not going to sit here and be like, well, Clem, you obviously should do this thing. Because Clem knows, based off hundreds of games of experience, what MaxPax will or not be bad or good against. So the Hellion here confirms that it is a 3rd Nexus, not a 4-gate, which, again, MaxPax hasn't really been doing against Clem anyway. But you can kind of also try and tell if they're going to commit to 3-gateway production. With the timing of the Nexus, so 2 gateways or 3 Nexus or 3 gateways. And it is 3 gates. It's not a lot of production on them. There's no Warp Prism being built yet. Not going to be a priority. He does usually get it, even if he's not going to try and do any type of real offense. Even just for harassment purposes or just showing it and spooking the Terran. Bah! Terrans are pretty spooked by Warp Prisms. Usually MaxPax does grab it, but this might be one of those rare games where he doesn't. And what's funny is that because he is so likely to grab the Warp Prism, Clem's just going to assume there's a Warp Prism. Clem's just going to be like, well, you're going to come in on this side, and I'm going to put all my Wood Mines there, I'm going to put a Viking there, I'm going to make sure 20 Marines stay at home, what have you. And it's like a mind game, man. It's like he's in your brain. Max a little ahead most of the match. Most of the match, yes. In the beginning, though, there was that Marine drop that really threw MaxPax off. But by the end of the, what was it, like an 18-minute game? Yeah, MaxPax had been winning for most of it. Colossus once again for MaxPax. This time just very proper. No Warp Prism shenanigans beforehand. Right to the Colossus, getting into charge. +1's on the way. Clem not going to do anything offensive either. He doesn't even have a drop out in the map himself, although a Raven is around getting repaired. Apparently went a little too close to the Stalkers. And we got ourselves a very normal TDP, because there's a 3rd CC as well. Clem is not going to go for any SEV pool shenanigans. Whispers of Gold does remind me of Coda. Just a map that I don't think of very often. The tile set, I guess, and the how close you are to each other, maybe. Anyway, third CC gonna come down. MaxPax accidentally had 2 observers over here, but you know I need 1, so I don't know where he put the other one. And we got ourselves a situation where, in the past, I would expect Clem to push from here, but given his last game and the game before that, maybe he does just stick around, not do anything until he's maxed again. And MaxPax, you know, if that's the case, he's going to take full advantage of it. He's going to have a 4th base, build out the probe count, probably try an attack or 2 with a relatively gasless army. The mass zealots, am I right, fellas? Everyone loves mass zealots. Oh, that observer was playing with fire, kind of deservedly died. The tank was not deserving. Oh my god, he just killed his own tank. Well, not what you want to see from Clem, but maybe he's still okay. Maybe he didn't need that second tank anyway. He is fine. He is moving out, so this is a difference. And if MaxPax is hoping there'd be a little bit more time, he'd be wrong about that. The stalkers are sharking around looking for the armies because the observer had yet to see it. I believe it was heading over to the right side. And now Clem, not really certain about the full-on attack in the front. He's going to try and divvy up his army, go for a drop, which kind of gets intercepted / intercepts. Whichever want to go with it. Zealots on the left side as well. MaxPax is ready to pull the trigger on both of those Zealot run-bys if Clem had continued over to his 4th base. And Clem would have had a big headache back at home, which he kind of already does. Unfortunately, loses that medevac drop that he had set up over to the right side and now known. And now also MaxPax knows that the army has retreated entirely. It is back at that 3rd, and MaxPax now has full reign over the map. This time, he did not have a marine drop that killed however many probes it did. So I feel like MaxPax now very much favored. We'll see. Grabs a medevac in exchange for a stalker, I believe that was. Warp prisms warping in more units. We are getting ready to pull that trigger. No upgrade about to finish for the Protoss. I'm not sure that's what MaxPax is waiting for. I thought I already got a Dark Shrine, too. I could have sworn I saw a Dark Shrine on the production tab. Maybe he canceled it. But he's waiting. He is waiting. He's got Zealots on the backside ready to try and come in. If Clem starts micring down to the bottom, then those Zealots can come in to get this round. If he starts to retreat towards the top, then the Zealots just chill for later opportunities. Another observer just ran into them. This is right. Okay. Everyone making some mistakes, I guess. We're going to have double robo at the very least. It's pretty standard. Maybe eventually triple robo. Dark Shrine will be available. More harassment opportunities. MaxPax pulling everything to the north. Again, he has these Zealots ready to hit the 3rd base. Although that's in pretty nice bunker position. Clem knows he will be attacked, and he will try and take the best engagement. But again, the question of how good can the counterattack be after. That's where we really see, I think, the game develop. Because right now, it's been both players just doing their thing. Clem's going to try and take a 4th base, and MaxPax is not willing to let him have it for free. I don't know about this. 2-1 versus 1-1. Protoss is better upgraded. Still got the Warp Prism in play as well, but that's a lot of bio. And the Zealots, they get too far ahead of those Colossus. The Colossus get too far into the Vikings, end up dying. Suddenly, you're nothing's left but Stalkers, which is unideal. So it always looks like such a terrible fight. It looks so terrifying for the Terran to take this engagement. But when you actually see it unfold, it can absolutely favor the Terran, especially with Clem's control. 4th base will be acquired. A little choke to work with, too, should he ever get a couple of Liberators. Right now, it's MaxPax is working with that choke, sending Disruptors in to ensure his retreat option. Zealots on the bottom side, a little too obvious, a little too on the nose. Clem was prepared for that, no problem. 2-2 is almost done for the Terran, but it's now a difficult time for Clem to try and push through. It's great that he got his 4th base, and defensively he might take a good engagement, but to push through that choke into the Protoss arms, that's a little different. MaxPax down on 5 bases, 79 probes. Could easily get a 6th because he has almost 4,000 minerals, but very much focused on trying to break Clem, trying a different angle, not working out super well. So far, the choke's working in Clem's favor. Once he pushed the Protoss army back, got that 4th choke on his side. Both of them maxed out. Upgrades now favoring the Terran, even a +1 for those Vikings, as the 3rd Colossus has already gone down. 2nd Colossus is about to fall too. And here we go, MaxPax once again on the retreat. Clem sensing an opportunity and a chase on after him. And this actually could be a really good opportunity. Zealots wasting their lives, kind of going single file into the Terran army. Colossus not knowing what to do. Disruptor going to try and save the day, but very temporarily. Actually just makes even a better concave for the Terran. And MaxPax, he's going to need something stronger than what he's throwing at the Terran army right now. It's not good enough. Oh my god, those Zealots did not stand a chance. Those Vikings landed perfectly timed to help out the rest of the bio. And there's a lot of them. And they have bonus. So they're pretty good. MaxPax does have that bank, and there is one hell of a disruptor shot. Oh! Oh, with the stimmed and injured Marauders that actually still one-shot them. That's a good start to the defense. So MaxPax, he needed time to produce more units with the bank that he has, and he needed to stop anything better dying. He did not want to give up a Nexus. Could give up a couple of Zealots, I suppose. Already lost the battle in the middle, but definitely didn't want to give up the Nexus. The Disruptor made sure that Clem could not threaten the Nexus and actually just full on left. So now MaxPax grabs the 6th finally. But then also many more rounds of production have been warped in. MaxPax ready to get on the offensive with a slightly different composition. More Disruptor focused. Zealots still needing one of the better engagements to really be effective. Take out the bunker, could take out the tank, not quite. Liberators now also sieged up, causing further problems. Liberator's gonna be very helpful here. As further harassment will start, more DT run-bys, more Zealot run-bys, more War Prisms in the main. We're gonna see that consistently in the... Oh, Jesus, all the Disruptors on the front line getting taken down. Focus fired as well. Oh, none of them got a shot off, and all of them are dead. It seems like, while I was paying attention to the main, so was MaxPax. And as such, it's not running away fast enough. I was trying to say the Liberators would be able to help out defensively on the 3rd and the 4th in case this was a 1-2 punch. And it was trying to be a 1-2 punch. But MaxPax got cut up with his jab. Lost the big haymaker. Lost all of the Disruptors. Lost the attack on the front lines. And now in trouble once again. But still 3,000 minerals a bank here, guys. Still some engagements that need to be taken care of for Clem to actually win this game. He's got like 3 waves of Zealot warp-ins to deal with before he can really finally put a pin in it. I'm not sure they're going to be coming in here good enough. Here they go, here we go, here we go. Zealots coming in. Stalkers forced on the front though, very awkwardly. Disruptors also being taken down, but the Zealots finally catch a large portion of reinforcements. Looks like the main base was still in trouble. Finally fully cleared up. Not a lot of economic damage, definitely more so on the production damage. Reinforcements getting killed. And just being a big old distraction, but it's finally cleaned up. Clem still on 4 bases. MaxPax still on 6, although his 6th does not have any mining on it. MaxPax is once again maxed out, but he's had some haphazard engagements. Clem has 3-3. MaxPax stuck at 3-2 currently. +2 ship also done, so the Vikings are very effective. The Liberators do 2-shot. That made such a loud sound. I had no idea what it was for a second. It's an energy recharge. Oh, it's 1 sentry. It's going to help out. This Guardian Shield's going to be big. It's such a non-army that I'm looking at right now. So many of his Zealots are actually coming in from the north side. Maybe hoping for a surround or maybe getting caught up in the army when they meant to go for the 3rd base. This army is just not... It's large, it looks like it takes a lot of space, but if the Disruptors miss, it is a very vulnerable army, and the Zealots all being apart away from it, it's a bit of a gamble. And now they're all by their lonesome, which is not ideal either, when they're facing almost half Maybe even more than half? Oh, yeah, that's actually all the army. Oh, yeah, Clem actually just moved most of his army. MaxPax, realizing that, is like, well, I gotta take something in return, so is gonna grab the planetary, but is perhaps gonna lose a large chunk of zealots, first of all, but then second of all, 2 Nexus, 2 dozen probes. Ah, we got another base trade. Oh, it's happening again. Another base trade between these two. It's funky. They're not usually ones to have really, really awkward, weird games, but apparently it's been a day full of slightly different games. Roddy's been casting nonstop bangers. Now we got Clem MaxPax turning into a second base trade. Clem does have the superior army supply and upgrades. MaxPax losing that superior economy, still has the bank, but no longer the consistent income. He's going to need to replace it or be all in effectively. He's going to take a newer Nexus off to the left side. Not going to bother with his old 4th, maybe? Trying to condense down a little more so Clem can't keep surprising him, I guess. Didn't know the entire army had moved over to the right side, after all. Now he's going to focus in entirely on the attack on the 3rd base, which Clem has been trying to defend most of the game. It's been working out all right. I mean, this base did go down. I just want to clarify. Clem did lose something here, but he's getting a 5th base up to the top right with an orbital, actually. So this was an additional orbital that he made. He has an additional command center as well to grab maybe a cheeky planetary up to that very top right side. And if he gets 2 more bases than MaxPax, well, then he'll be in a very good position. Already finding a good engagement, finds a Colossus, gets the kill without losing too many Vikings in return. Clem's army supply still ahead of his opponent's upgrade, still favoring the Terran player. Disruptors, really the biggest thing that MaxPax has going for him. And a potential surround with these Zealots. That is a lot of them, after all. But here comes Big Concave. Terran coming in for the final fight, perhaps. Vikings down to just 4 of them. Not going to kill the Colossus that quickly, but they are stopping them from engaging. Disruptors are being sent out as consistently as possible. And Clem just kept dodging. Dodge and weave with that big of a concave. It actually wasn't all that difficult. And nothing was killing the Terran army while it was dodging and weaving. The Zealots were getting massacred. The Colossus were running away from the Vikings. Nothing worked out the way the MaxPax was hoping that it would. This might just be the end result here. Clem steamrolling over the Protoss army, taking on another Nexus. Going to find the last one, truly, on this bottom left. He wants to grab the Disruptors if he can. That would certainly end the game. But he can't quite get all of them. Finds one on the backside, still avoiding the rest of them as they're just so damn slow that the Zealots surround is not going to last long enough. Not at all. No, it was so close to lasting long enough. Oh, and that's it. GG's, Clem. He will take game for 2 and even up the series. It's because it also means if they are not neutered, they will mark their territory. They will pee in your house. They will want to leave the house and go catch other, the lady cats. They'll grow really large. They actually have like a different face. Not that that's bad necessarily, just there's other effects to not neutering them. And then, anyways, once you've done that, then being a counter is pretty easy. In the top right, we do have MaxPax. In the bottom left, it is Clem. Yeah, and 2 cats are really better than 1. It's double the vet bill, but the food isn't too different, and then they really do a better job at taking care of each other. And it's just freaking adorable when they bond and they start cuddling with each other. So we had 2 pretty sick games. First game was full-on base trade, not quite base race, not quite like we're going to kill the last building, although it seemed like it might have been Clem's plan for the first game. He was getting awfully desperate. Second game had a bit of a base trade, but one that did ultimately favor Clem quite a bit. Clem was able to kill 2 Nexus that were fairly important to MaxPax. A third one is still mining, so it wasn't the end of the game. But it really contributed to the end of the game, alongside a lot of good engagements from Clem. Once he was allowed a little more freedom on the map, Disruptors weren't getting their perfect ideal engagements. Colossus weren't either. Zealots weren't getting those surrounds. And when you don't have that supercharged economy of having 3 more bases than your Terran opponent, you really got to start taking very good engagements. And that was actually just entirely avoided. Clem, I don't think, had a bad engagement. No, not really. I mean, he had to kind of leave an engagement, which is a little awkward, but not really a bad one. And MaxPax would have probably done okay had he had 3 bases full-on mining, able to replace everything. Would have made some different decisions. Probably would have had more for harassment. It would have been different. But the 2 Nexus dying and Clem mostly getting away with it. Like, he traded one of his planetaries for 2 Nexus, but then not a lot of his army went down for that. And then it worked out pretty well. So a really different best of 3 as well compared to their one they played in the regular bracket, I guess you could say. Where that was full of early attacks from Clem. Even an SCV pool. And now Clem's back to 3 base, but pretty defensive play. Really not choosing to commit to any move out. He doesn't get 2 medevacs and immediately fly across the map to try and do some damage. Not even really doing a lot of single medevac harassment as an opener. And like I said, maybe the confidence of winning the first series kind of gave that option to him, or he's just continuing to try and really throw MaxPax off, making sure he doesn't get used to something. For MaxPax, I haven't talked a lot about what his overall plans have been, and that's one of the reasons I gave him actually more credit, is because he actually doesn't seem to be having to change a lot of things up. He went 1 game Storm, which worked out brilliantly, but the rest of the games have been 3-gate Blink into Colossus. And I thought that type of dependability, not feeling the necessity to change things up or feeling pressured to do that, would result in a better series the next time these guys met. But it remains to be seen. Maybe MaxPax will win this game, maybe it won't. If, again, he does not win this best of 3, that's it. Clem wins. If MaxPax wins this best of 3, there's another one out. Or the 2 don't get along. Yes, it is possible for 2 cats not to get along. Not saying it's not. It's just generally, if you do a good job introducing them, or if you get them as kittens, or you get cats that are known to like other cats, like, it shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, let's CG Inspire get 7 cats. Yeah, 1 up me. Medevac drop is heading out, actually. So a Widow Mine, a single Widow Mine coming through here. The Hellions just going to bypass the Adepts and get some additional scouting. What the Medevac and the main base won't see, the Hellion hopefully will. It is 4-gate, by the way, guys. So maybe MaxPax is now the one feeling a little bit of pressure. Fully committing to a 4-gate, that is an all-in. It's kind of been Maru-ized, where Maru made the 2 and the 3 racks not as all-in as they would usually be. MaxPax has made the 4-gate not really as all-in as it would be or would be in other people's hands. But it is still very much dedicated, and one of the reasons that I think he stopped doing it was because it was becoming defendable. Even, you know, a lot of Terrans were figuring out how to perfectly defend a 4-gate if they knew 100% it was coming, and MaxPax was going through a phase where he would literally only 4-gate. Then he kind of changed over to 3-gate, and that gave him more of a flexible option. But yeah, full-on 4-gate. Clem has been very wary of the possibility of this. Getting 2 bunkers, getting enough tanks. This time around, he didn't actually know about it, first of all. So he sees 3 in total with the scouting he currently has, but he's probably figuring it out because the Stalkers are being so aggressive. Certainly they have a Warp Prism. Hey, it's a lot of Stalkers, he's 4-getting me. But he hasn't had the second bunker. The second bunker could be something he's very much missing. 3rd tank pops out, is going to be microed back. At least that buys some time for the auto turret, SCVs, and the Marines to dig into the Stalkers here. Would have been better to save the tank, absolutely, but did what it could. 3 SCVs go down, not bad at all. 6 Stalkers, though, went down with that, and that is actually kind of bad. Bunker might be target fire down, maybe, yes, it will. 1 Stalker, I believe, went down. A bunch more, very, very injured, but we're down to just pure Marine SCV defending here. Tanks on the high ground going to be coming down finally. So a 3rd one just popped, and a 2nd one unsieged to come down here, by the looks of things. He does not want to give an opening to the main base. That's something he's very afraid of doing. He knows that as soon as he shows enough army on the natural, the Protoss army will go to the main. But that was not enough in the natural to scare away MaxPax. MaxPax actually dove, got a tank and a Raven, but did not realize the second tank was ready, so he did take a couple of blasts to the face. That's 9 SCVs down, but 13 Stalkers. The really important thing is that the Stalker count isn't being retained as much as MaxPax could, I suppose. Like, he's been taking some risky engagements, microing to the best of his ability, sure, but if this was 20 Stalkers, we'd obviously already be calling game over. It might still be game over as another tank goes down. We're still on 2 tanks, but both in siege. Well, that one actually nicely in siege. And that is actually it as far as the attack goes, I think. I think that this is past the point of return for MaxPax. Now that he's out of the game, I don't think MaxPax is dead. I don't think Clem is dead. But I do think MaxPax's 4-gate is running out of steam. That last attack through the natural, going into the main, bit of a Hail Mary kind of situation where, you know, yeah, if you really did take down all the tanks, if the Terran player was being very flippant and not producing tanks, you might have actually won right there. If you had walked to the main, there was no tank. Those Stalkers would be just all over the Marines, right? But thankfully, tanks are being produced. In total, I think 7 tanks are going to be produced in this game. And that has definitely contributed to Clem being alive. SCV pulls were great as well, and because he was producing SCVs while losing them, he's really never fallen that far behind on their worker count. MaxPax did start to invest in probes. He did start to invest in probes around the time that I was like, oh, I think this might be like wearing out. And he got the 3rd Nexus up, obviously, but this has been delays on his economy. There are repercussions to a unsuccessful 4-gate, and usually an unsuccessful 4-gate is just one that hasn't won already. Like, that's usually how we would talk about it if this was Showtime, Trigger, Estrella. We'd be like, oh, he failed the 4-gate. He didn't win. Oh, sorry, buddy. But that said, the 4-gate at least did some amount of damage. It did kill some workers and some army. And MaxPax just has a way of making the comeback work here that a lot of other Protosses don't. So I say like MaxPax isn't behind. I shouldn't say it that way. I do think MaxPax is behind. I don't think MaxPax is out of the game, because MaxPax is really going to make these comebacks happen. Is he behind? You can absolutely argue that he is. 65 workers, not quite 4 bases when you're only working with plain unupgraded gateway units. It's not good for Protoss. Even the supplies look okay right now. This is where run-bys, War Prism threats, good army movement could really make a big difference. Actually, whoa, he's going to attack? I mean, this is the type of maneuver that is shocking. So sometimes, you know, it can work. I love the Archon on the front trying to tank the shots. Tanks are left a little alone. Zealots on the right side as well. MaxPax not going to find the attack he was hoping for. He did take out those tanks, almost no problem, but none of the bio was really caught between a rock and a hard place. I think that's what the Zealots are trying to do. They're trying to collapse down the army, get us around, pin the Marines up against a wall. Did not happen. Clem, though, still absolutely needing to respect this. MaxPax, I mean, there's a reason he's only on 65 probes. He did stop, and now he's back to building them. But it's a dangerous game that he's playing. The bio is pretty good. And once that army that he had built up, the Protoss army that he had built up, all those Zealots start to dissipate, that's when the bio army suddenly becomes like, oh, it's sturdy to, okay, it's going to straight up kill me. Like, I just won't have enough. Like, it's a very, very, very tense game. This bunker actually being here is still helpful. That's odd, but good. Colossus will arrive. Medivacs are out of juice. SCVs had to be pulled away. That is certainly complicating things. +1 armor is about to finish, giving the Terran an upgrade lead, but the Medivac energy and the lack thereof is actually really starting to be a problem. Gonna go and use this concave to the best of visibility. Immortal is gonna be juggled after tanking quite a few shots. Colossus on the front lines, a little vulnerable, but the bio army, again, so injured. It is so injured. If that was nothing but green Marauders right there, I think he might have chased after. But the Medivacs are still out of energy. Liberator's going to help out here. Bunker is still available in case the Natural's under attack. Couple of force fields actually providing some really good cutting between the armies. And Clem is starting to run out of army. He absolutely is. MaxPax. He has such a way of making this army work, man. And this is really, it's such an odd time to attack. That Clem certainly wasn't anticipating it, even though he still ended up being okay with. Like, losing the tanks that easily is not okay, but his bio did not get the worst result possible. But then to continue, just to identify when he can stick around and reinforce is, I think, one of the things that's above and beyond of the Protoss players. So many Protoss players would have played this game safely and moved away once they got the tank kill or something. And instead, MaxPax just was relentless. Noticing the Marauders weren't being healed up, noticing that the army was now being split in two with the Warp Prism positioning. I mean, I really don't... I want to equate that to when you open up a can of vegetables. You know, you ever open up a can, it's got that, like, little, like, the tab. That's what it's called, the tab. And, like, at first, it's kind of annoying to grab the tab, because you kind of have to, like, dig your nail in under it, right? And it's kind of annoying. But then once you do it, it just pops right off. That was kind of that, which is like, I swear to God, MaxPax was not in a position that was like, I'm definitely winning. I'm just going to A-move, la 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 la. I swear to God he wasn't. But he got, like, that fingernail in underneath the tab at just the right moment and just pried that baby open. And that means there's another best of 3 in the way. So it's our final best of 3 of the night officially. Nothing can change that. In the bottom right, we do have Team Liquid's Clem. And in the top left, it is MaxPax. MaxPax was defeated by Clem in the bracket. Went down to the lower bracket, then defeated those guys there, came back up to the winners, the grand finals, won the first best of 3, which is the bracket reset, and is now going to, hopefully for him, I guess, win the whole thing, get revenge totally and entirely, by defeating Clem once again in a best of 3. Whoever wins this is the actual winner of the tournament. And MaxPax is bringing out something that he hasn't really done in a while. Well, I shouldn't say that. But he doesn't do as frequently as he once was doing. He is proxying a gateway. He used to do this all the time. Used to be the thing he was only known for. Long before he was probably the best Protoss in the whole world. Stopped when it became evident that was the only thing he was doing. Then he went through a period, I think, of trying different strategies, but then really settled on the 4-gate as his favorite. And he's not a player still that really has a lot of builds, I think. He's got, you know, little tweaks and little, you know, he can read into things and change things up a little bit. But as far as wildly different builds, going from a Cannon Rush to a Proxy 2-gate to a 4-gate to a Colossus all-in to a Proxy Temp, like, no. That's not MaxPax. MaxPax has 3 or 4 builds that he's really good at, and a couple of them are odd. They're different than what other Protoss would do. But it's, you know, he still does it a lot. And this is one of them. Z MaxPax. Proxy Gate only means production in proxy. Seems dangerous. Could be. But for him, seems to work out. The Reaper does immediately go scout that, and the command center will have to be canceled. So that's the good thing for MaxPax, is that he was facing someone who did go for a 1-Rax expand. Clem did not go for a factory expand, I want to say, at all in the last series, but he went nothing but factory expand in the first series, I believe. So this might be why MaxPax has changed things up, which makes a lot of sense. So the command center has to be canceled, it has to be rebuilt on the high ground. This is a much better result than what could have happened, though, if Clem had sent the Reaper across the map, not scattered around his base. He doesn't have a bunker here ready to go by the time the Stalker arrives. His command center still isn't done. It's still, you know, 70% and still has to be canceled then, which is not just the loss of 100 minerals, but so much time invested into the command center. And because you don't have a bunker, your main could be broken. You could actually straight up lose the game in a really severe case. In this case, it's right in the middle. It's not the best scenario, it's not the worst scenario. And really, it's making the best out of one of the worst scenarios, which is having to cancel the command center. So, getting it nice and quick, starting to rebuild on the high ground, safety on the high ground, little scouting from the Reaper, couldn't actually kill any probes thanks to the shield battery, but hey, he had to commit to a shield battery to protect his probes. So, as far as getting any edges here, I don't think anyone really has. MaxPax maybe a little happy with the opening, but I just don't think it's super detrimental with the way that Clem was able to respond swiftly to it. Speed was of the essence, and having his command center only 10% done, was it? As opposed to 70% is way different. Way different. This is still a relatively smooth feeling build. And this is also going to be taken care of before gateways warp-ins are available? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Stalkers look around for some reason. Oh, because MaxPax was distracted by the Reaper. Might lose him a Cyclone as the Stalker, as the Cyclone is on the chase. Yes, it does. So making sure to nip this before Warp Gate was available, because if Warp Gate was available as the army showed itself, MaxPax probably warps in. 3 more Stalkers, 4 Stalkers in total with the Zealot could actually micro against this army. Even better, Clem doesn't get this at all, and MaxPax can choose to use it or not. But Clem does what he should, takes care of it, is properly protected in the natural. Blink is going to be done, and that would have been the next power spike for MaxPax. Now it's less of a power spike. It's a little more awkward without that proxy warp gate, without the distraction and kerfuffle that the proxy gate should be causing from the very beginning to even now. And there's worse games. There's really ugly games where the Terran player does not handle the proxy gate very well and is just tripping over themselves every single minute. This is not one of them. So MaxPax ideally wanted this 1-2-3 punch, proxy gate usage to kind of be a bother, then into the Blink Stalker with the proxy gate, and you got something that's really quite difficult to deal with. But this is not too bad. This is normal. This is completely fine. Clem has 4 Stalkers to worry about. That ain't nothing. And he knows it too. If he was really scared of a true committal to a Blink Stalker attack, he wouldn't have stopped making tanks. The third Nexus is on the way. The Stalker count is not very intimidating, and the bio count actually is starting to rise pretty nicely. Looks like Clem is wary of a Dark Shrine follow-up? Possibly? I like putting this in the natural just in case it catches the Observer, but this far back in the natural really does feel like for DTs. And to be fair, he really doesn't know what's going on. He figured he's not going to be killed by any Blink Stalker attack with a Warp Prism potentially. If it was made, it would have been so late. But there's other things he's got to be worried of. Medevac drop off to the right side. Going to be a distraction and possible scouting. MaxPax did not see that at all with the Observer being as far out as it is. And Clem could actually do a push here. Double pronged attack. Not going to be the situation. Yeah. This is going to draw the Stalkers back from the front, though. Something that MaxPax is going to know. Even without that Stalker, he's going to know he's just opened up the opportunity for the attack to commence. Should Clem decide to do that? Clem's pulled back in some other games. This time around, though, definitely running and gunning. He's got a stim on the bio. His tank's going to be able to siege up, and he still has the medevac for distraction. Jumps right on top of those sentries. They're taken out. Shield battery not going to be as helpful as it would like. The tank is deleted thanks to those backline Stalkers, but what else does MaxPax have? He is, I was going to say mostly Stalker-based, which is really not any units. 8 Stalkers, 5 Zealots, a single sentry. Clem, not with all the medevac energy, I guess, is maybe hesitant to try and end the game. But I think he might be able to. That shield battery is out of juice. Force fields and a Guardian Shield, this will be effective, though. Yeah. And you know another warp in's coming in soon. Not exactly sure when, but you know it's soon. So another 8 Zealots also would have complicated things. Yeah, okay. Not able to push the issue there. Still taking a good position. He has map control. He's got the ability to run around and find these types of attacks where he just catches 5 units that are not protected. Fortunately, MaxPax doesn't lose any of them. But the medevac's still going around looking for opportunities. Now with Widow Mines instead of Marines. Stalkers are prepared, though. MaxPax paying attention. Speaking of distractions, we got Zealots in the natural of Clem as well as the third. But it looks like it's also a distraction for MaxPax, who did not as aggressively take care of the medevac, I guess, but he does still have time to react, and that's the most important thing. Medevac drop taken care of. Back to focusing on those frontline units. 4th base, once to be gotten, almost snuck in while defending. Not going to happen, though. If you could sneak this in kind of behind the attack that you're currently dealing with, that could put you in a much better position. now having to worry about the attack first, then Nexus, and the Nexus is still being denied thanks to this cheeky Marine. That's a lot of time not to get a Nexus when you're intending to. He's banking at least 400 extra minerals than he wants to be to try and get this Nexus down. Finally going to take care of it, but that was a huge delay. MaxPax down 40 supply. Then in a similar situation, you know, Clem didn't go for the throat at that point, and the supply did even out. And then in victory for MaxPax, actually. Will Clem... I don't know if it's really the same mistake, but will Clem have a similar situation? He's, I think, far more active in this game than previous ones at this time, so I'm thinking he's going to... One, he's going to find the opportunity to take a game-winning engagement. Boom, there it is. He should probably win with a 40 supply lead. Or, alternatively, and this is what he's scared of, he's going to try and take that engagement and fail miserably. He's going to try and kill a Colossus that goes step 2 forward and then inadvertently get his units all surrounded by the Zealots instead. He's going to try and chase after the Stalkers, and then Zealots will come in as a brick wall and surround him. Like, whatever it is, you're still worried about being caught in the least ideal engagement, even though your army is pretty good. Terran army is very good, actually, as more of it comes in here. Most of it's saved from the Force Field Division. There's just so many Marauders. Vikings as well. 3 Colossus are going to be able to interact in this engagement. The Viking count's not high enough to take them down quickly, but that's also a bigger and bigger problem as time goes on. When we get to 8 Vikings, those Colossus will be not useless, but they'll have their own struggle, shall we say. Clem still with a 50 supply lead even. MaxPax hoping to catch reinforcements, I suppose, what he's doing with his little hit squad. Unable to grab a 4th base any direction as well, and he really needs to get one. Really, really needs it. Upgrade advantage for the Protoss at this particular time, but will the upgrades be enough? That has almost doubled the army supply. Some medevacs forced to pick up units that were trapped in the force field trap there. We have run out of Zealots for the most part, though. The Colossus still very much healthy and alive, adding in a lot right now. Without those Colossus, this army is very, very frail. Need more Zealots reinforcing ASAP, and that's exactly what Clem is doing, or MaxPax is doing. MaxPax is holding on just barely. Clem still the 40 supply lead, though. 4th base is finishing for him. Additional barracks as well. Ghosts making their way out. 2-2 starts up for the Terran, not yet for the Protoss. Clem will eventually also have an upgrade lead. MaxPax wanting probably just to take out some expensive units while he can. Medevacs and Vikings, certainly. Even Marauders being shot down would be nice. And also forcing more stims, so that any engagement that does happen, happens with Clem at 75% health. I mean, that can really add up. But you also need to kind of put on a brave face, don't you? MaxPax moved into Clem's side of the map at a 50 supply deficit. You might think that's freaking crazy. But you really can't just obviously make yourself look like an injured doe. Can't just be like, please come and kill me. You want to take advantage of any of the chokes, then you have time to back away should it go poorly. You want to make them doubt how big of a lead they're in as you take a weirdly aggressive approach, like a mouse trying to attack a cat. The catch is like, what the hell? But you definitely can't just stand still and let Clem get maxed out with 2-2 Ghost Viking and then just completely demolish you. So MaxPax trying his best, trying to get the Stalkers in to chip away at some important units. Zealot run-bys, holding up the 4th base a little bit. Did get into the main, but didn't do too much. It's a little bit more time, bot. MaxPax now at a 45 supply deficit. Like I say, it's a little better, but not by very much. +2 attack is done for the Terran. Upgrade for Clem. Gets a great EMP on top of the Zealots coming on the right side. The Colossus still not being touched, though, as the Vikings are just not actually trying to get them. I feel like they could actually go ahead and just stay put. There's 8 Vikings officially now, everything grouped together. And at that point, you could probably let those Vikings just target fire, shift Q. The Stalkers are going to be in a lot of trouble, dancing around the bio. And they're not going to shoot down 8 Vikings particularly quickly. You can't just leave them overhead, of course, but eventually Clem will decide to let those Vikings just kill the Colossus and then focus on everything else. Not quite there yet, but perhaps this engagement. And when those 3 Colossus are all gone, what is really left of MaxPax's army? He has not been able to max out. He doesn't have a lot of disruptors. He certainly doesn't have a bank to recover any army losses. And this could be it. Yep, Vikings just chilling and shooting, not even focus fire. And finally, Clem goes for the actual death move, and he wins. Game number 2 on the final best of 3 of the day. In the bottom left, it is Clem. In the top right, it is MaxPax. We're on ley lines, or what could be the final game of the series. Just a best of 3. No best of 5s in this particular tournament. Later tonight, on the likes of Pig and Artosis and Stego, maybe, channel, they're going to have a evening, more American time-based tournament that is Wings of Liberty. If you want to check that out. I actually would like to check that out, but my nephew's coming over and gotta cook dinner, and then there's an NBA game I want to watch, and maybe I'll ask for the replays. Because talking about Wings of Liberty, just gonna throw me back, man. It's gonna be a great dose of nostalgia. So Clem took that game pretty easily. You know, as easy as you can really get it versus MaxPax, I would say. Well, that one game where MaxPax was clearly thrown off. Actually, it was this map where he was thrown off, too. That was probably the easiest game Clem's had versus MaxPax. Game 2 of their first best of 3 today. Now in their third best of 3. But that last map was... everything was looking up for Clem, and it was just a matter of tying it with a nice little bow, which he was able to do. Understandable amount of deference given to MaxPax. I'm sure Clem knew that he was in a very good position. But now we got a 1x expand, regardless of that previous opener, by the way. Clem's like, he's not going to proxy gate me again. Because even though he did proxy gate me, I actually handled it really, really well. So no doubt going to do the same thing with the Reaper. Just check for any proxies real quick, and then if there is it, immediately cancel, immediately move on. That command center was way farther than 10%, by the way. Don't ever let me say that again. Better to cancel the command center at half than at 80%. Still is true. But this would be like a proxy gateway there. Boom, cancel, high ground bunker, high ground command center. Cut your losses. Don't let them get anything more than that. But in this case, no need. No proxy gate. I wonder if they're going to get Wings of Liberty with its last possible patch? Because that would make more sense. And if that's the case, then is Broodlord Infestor broken? And if that's the case, would Zerg win all those tournaments? Or maybe it's like the first patch of Wings of Liberty, which shouldn't even have Andean Pulse Crystals. In which case Zerg would win all that as well. Yeah. That was I didn't end up having the argument with my YouTube comment, but there was a guy who was saying like oh, life saved Zerg. Like Zerg was in a good space before life appeared and saved them and showed them the way. And I'm like, I don't think it's actually the case. I mean, Zerg might not have been the broken race, not until Broodlord Infestor, but I don't think the only time I really think of Zerg being weak is in the very beginning. Very, very beginning of the game. They will use Metalopolis, by the way. We did have a little bit of kerfuffle there, so yes, the Adepts did get in, but, to what effect? They got a scout, which is still more than you'd usually want them to have, but the Adepts would then chase away, so it's not... There wasn't really a lot of harm done with that. And even its scout was kind of incomplete because they won't know if this tech lab is going to transfer over to the starport or not. Is it going to produce tanks? Is it going to do banshees right to a raven? Who knows? Considering what Clem has done the past 6 games they've played, I mean, it's probably tanks. But he did get a banshee. He did get a raven. He's done all those things. So, you never know. Hellion wants to get a better scout on what MaxPax is doing. It's going to see that a third Nexus is intended and actually shown. I mean, technically MaxPax could have waited a little bit to try and fake out the, be like, oh, this was a fake out. You're not even sure. You don't even know. But it did not. It rather got the Nexus ASAP for the Hellion to block it. Which means it's not a 4-gate. Most likely it is 3 gateways, and it absolutely is. Again, the timing of the third Nexus as well. which means that there could be a split of the difference. It's not super aggressive, but it's also not the most economical that you can be. There could be a warp prism, there could be more stalkers warped in, and that's exactly what it is. Clem is more than familiar with the situation. MaxPax did not do this the last game, or the last game because he proxy gated. And the game before that, I think he also didn't do it. But this is absolutely something he will do. He will use a 3-gate as a 4-gate while getting a base. He will commit 100% to gateway production. And that's still going to give you a lot of firepower. If the Terran messes up the defense, you could still find victory with this. This might not be it, though. Although we did have the... Oh, Jesus. Couple things happened there. Couple things. Clem. His APM's too fast. Not only did his tank not fire at the army that it could have, the rest of the army didn't fire at the army it could have. All of the army of Clem attacked at Starport and the factory. One after the other. Wasting so many shots. I think the tank was a goner no matter what, because MaxPax seemed pretty determined to kill it despite the repair. But it probably should have killed 2 or 3 more stalkers in return, actually. Say Libby. We don't have a Raven nearby because it is going for harassments. So that's why the scan had to be used, but the observer is now out. And this is, again, not a 4-gate, so the chances of it snowballing is pretty low. It absolutely could happen, and that was better than it was supposed to be, because that really should have been, I think, a catastrophe for MaxPax. He jumped in when the SCV repair could come down, when the second tank was popping out, but thank goodness for Clem's misclicks. It's definitely not going to snowball. Clem's not really worried about dying to this, and the game is going to get to the next stage, and that next stage is MaxPax bringing back the Templar Archives. Not going to Colossus this time. He's bringing back that Storm. There is a 3rd CC, so this is not any type of reaction to potential 2-base all-in. Definitely not going to be an SCV pull here. This is just going to be a style that is being used. That might have been what he intended the last time. He also went Storm, but it also matched up against an SCV pool. Now, if it matches up against an SCV pool, Storm is great. We saw why. It's fantastic. If it doesn't, there is always a little bit of a question as to how good Charge-Lot Storm is as far as the default macro game of the Protoss. Why it seems so many Protoss don't do it and instead opt for those Colossus. And I don't really know where I stand right now, especially because I haven't been in the thick of things for the last 4 months. But for me, Charge Storm is some of the coolest things that Protoss can do when I watch it. If I face it, I fucking hate you. But when I watch it, I really like it. It's one of my favorite ways to play TVP. But I stand by it being a potentially a skill ceiling that can't match the skill ceiling of Terran, I guess is the best way to put it. Where maybe that's the Protoss' whole problem. But when it comes to the Templar Archives play style, it feels like if the Terran's really, really, really good, then I feel like the Terran has the advantage. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise it would be equal between these two because they're both very equally matched lately. But with Storm, like, Clem should be able to deal with it if his micro and his knowledge of it, which is also very important, is as good as it should be. And then it's kind of it's forcing the issue on the side of the Protoss. It's really forcing it. And that's exactly what MaxPax is going to do. He's going to force it. Eat these Zealots. Eat the Storms. Eat the Storms! The Zealots on the bottom side, distracted by a bunker, which it was pretty much perfect, by the way, alongside an SCV. Hold position on the tank. Way to go. And this is, well, I couldn't have asked for a better depiction of what I was trying to talk about, actually. This is just not going to work anymore. There's way too much bio left over. It's injured, but there's not enough Protoss army to kill the injured units. So it's one and done. And yeah, that could not have been... That could not have been more perfect. That was... If he has the knowledge and he has the micro, the Terran is going to deflect this. And it feels like the Protoss only can do so much to make it work. The Terran can do a lot of things to not make it work. SimCity, proper army control, tanks position, hold position around something against the Zealots, whatever he did there. And then for the Protoss, it's like, well, shit. Okay, what do I do now? And that was one of the best holds I think I've seen. The bunker distracting the zealots into the hold position on the tank. The storm's not quite getting the heart of the matter. I mean, that's some real revenge for the earlier game they were playing, where Clem did die to the storms. That was some good revenge. And now, so, you know, maybe you don't phase out of Charge Lot Storm. Maybe you just continue working with it, hope to find good zealot engagements, hope to find good storms. But we know that ghosts are going to be on the way, first of all. And they are on the way. They're about to pop out, using the tanks instead to deflect those High Templars. Great. Awesome job. But then also, you know, the ghosts are really a great stopping point for High Templars. You can try and avoid them or counter micro them or what have you, but it's pretty freaking difficult. But this in general, relying on Hail Mary storms as the rest of your army just kind of deflates in the face of further upgraded bio. Seriously, not something you can stay on. You got to go into those Colossus, you got to go into the Disruptors, you got to go into what we see from most TVPs. MaxPax is not going to stop being annoying, that's for sure. Zealots continuing to do run-bys and get dropped out by War Prisms. This is the second time the main and natural have been under attack. Once again, Clem pretty much on top of the defense in both sectors, though. And he can accept a storm or two without dying painfully. Anything more, and it's a little sketch. But what's really going to make it good for Protoss is when the Protoss player has Colossus, upgraded units, maybe a couple of Disruptors, and no storms. You know, and one storm gets through, injures the army, soaks up the energy, then the rest of the army could actually kill all this shit. Which is almost what happened here, except the storms were still too spread out. 3 of them on top of the army, but on the army in a kind of perfect concave, hitting 6 units max, and not enough of the fodder, if you will, to actually take care of all of these injured units. There's not enough. Clem, by the way, behind defending on all attacks, has also gotten a 4th base and a 5th base. He might be actually getting a 5th base. He's going to be really on guard against those sprinkled High Templars, and sprinkled High Templars are great when they get that storm, but they're terrible if they're just found out, EMP'd, and killed, and then it's a total waste of gas. MaxPax struggling to get past this transition period. When on the offense, when again a lot of other Protoss players would not have, but to, you know, a certain effect. It's not just he's doing all willy-nilly. Trying to puff himself up a little bit, trying to catch this army when it's injured and can be stormed before Clem is paying attention. Trying to keep Clem back at home as long as possible to build up the economies. This is what MaxPax needed to do, but nothing on the attack worked out just well enough. Clem still feeling very, very powerful, despite all the storms that have been thrown down on him. So many injured units. He still feels like he's got this in the bag. 4 bases going up to 5. Upgrades on the way. Tanks still here to help out against the High Templars alongside the EMPs. The only thing the Terran is missing is medevac energy. And I would love to see a fast Caduceus reactor against this, but I'll let the pro decide. Stock is trying to jump on top of the tanks, but they weren't even killing. They didn't even kill him that fast. Some storms hit. We're kind of all over the place, though. And that might actually favor MaxPax. The Zealots getting better wraparounds on units. His Colossus taking out some of the weakened units on the right side. And barely not dying themselves. Clem getting a little, yeah, like I said, too all over the place. And all of his army was injured. All of his medevacs were out of juice. Here's that automated spam healing units or OP. You mean medevacs? I don't know. I guess you could take my whole, like, I don't know if High Templar charge matches the skill cap of Terran, as Terran is overpowered compared to Protoss. You could take it that way, I guess. I'm not even going to say that's right or wrong. I just think that Zealot High Templar is still kind of relegated to the off game. The thing that surprises your opponent, the thing that makes them go, okay, this has changed the pacing of the game, more than it is the thing that you can do every single game and have good results every single time. Anyway, we have the Vikings taking care of the War Prism back there, so no further distractions. Clem entirely maxed out with 2-2, about to be 3-2. Has a supply lead, about 30. His MaxPax also has built more probes. Vikings can now take care of the Colossus. I mean, again, they could probably just stay there and take care of them. Army coming on the left as well, without any medevacs, but not really necessary. Just the damage is going to be good enough. No more storms that I can see to help out against this army, and this could be it. It is Clem. Well, at the end of the day, win the Open Cup. He had to face Clem, or MaxPax, 2-3 times to get it, but he does finally grab the grand prize. I want to say $200?